Hello everyone, welcome to my day 1 port review of Senran Kagura Shinovi Versus. Alright, so this is the prequel to Estival Versus, which I covered on the PS4. You can check out that video, it's my first impressions below. But we're going to be talking about the port today now. This came up on really short notice. I didn't even see the launch trailer for this thing, which was apparently a few days before the game was, it's out on June 1st, which is yesterday now, because it's midnight right now. And I didn't get review code. Apparently a lot of people didn't because Exceed has had some issues getting games over because it's just a very niche. They port a lot of niche games, and the problem with that is that there's either, you either get no attention at all or a lot of it all at once, more than you're able to handle, and that's kind of what happened here, so I wasn't able to get code for it. But I will at least try to give you a PC port impressions. And it's decent. Nothing too amazing, though. Alright, so let's have a look at the options here. So it's developed by Tamsoft and, of course, published, at least for the English side, by Exceed. And you have, separate audio sliders, which is nice. Camera controls, you can invert. It only goes up to 1080p for the display, and this is pretty much it for your graphics options, which aren't even really graphics options. Thankfully, it does start in borderless windowed and supports it. That's what I can say about most games. Now, unfortunately, even if I unplug my controller right now, which I'm not going to, all the buttons are, in the menus, are controller, see, you have LB up there, you have RB, and you have back. Yeah, it's a little annoying. In fact, it's kind of almost unplayable to use the keyboard and mouse, even though there is mouse control in the game. The problem is that while you can rebind even the gamepad buttons, which is kind of a rarity nowadays, and as well as keyboard and mouse, you can't bind, when you move your mouse around, so, you can't use your mouse as a camera, unfortunately. So, but if you have a multi-button mouse, you might be able to get away with using it instead of just the keyboard, which is... The default controller bindings for keyboard is kind of a nightmare because you have your left hand on the left side of the keyboard, right? And you have your right hand on the mouse, but a lot of the buttons are let's say, K, L, these are, you would have to move your hand over, a fair degree in order to use these keys, so you're gonna have to change them, and of course, because there's no prompts, or, there's nothing, indicating, what button you're supposed to hit for what action, you're gonna have to be doing a lot of guessing to get this game set up, but it is somewhat playable with a keyboard and mouse, but I would heavily recommend a pad just to avoid the headache. Not bad for their first port. They're definitely doing a better job than Dynasty Warriors first did, I can tell you that much. At least my controller works when I plug it in. I don't have to bind it, do, this ridiculous voodoo magic to get it working. Also, optimization-wise, it runs pretty well. Apparently someone was running HD graphics, like Intel 4000 on an i5, and they were getting good frame rates just fine. Frame rate's locked at 60, unfortunately, but, I mean, it stays at 60. It's weird, we've gotten so many good PC ports lately. Is it, kind of weird? I feel like gamer entitlement exists, but I don't think it applies here, whereby we're kind of oh, really? 1080p, 60 FPS? It's kind of a thing that's been done a lot, where, it's porting to PC should be easy, and I don't understand... I mean, as long as it works, I guess a lot of people will be happy with it. It's only $30 and it includes, a ton of DLC. There's, a metric buttload. Speaking of butts, there are quite a bit, and there's also quite a bit of loading screens. So, you're going to notice that, if you watch my Senran Kagura Estival Versus... I'm trying not to get the name confused. Estival Versus, if you watch my review, or my first impressions of that, there's a lot of, talking segments. And you can skip those pretty quick on the PS4 version. I don't know about the Vita version, but here, the thing is, this is a direct Vita port. The PS4 doesn't even get this version, by the way. Because this is a direct Vita port, you have to deal with a lot of loading screens, because I guess the Vita's RAM just couldn't handle all these, dialogue segments. So, welcome to the game. I'm going to possibly do a full first impressions on this game. I don't want to promise anything. Maybe. It's a lot of more of the same of Estival Versus. In fact, this is pretty much a prequel to that game. So if you want to just know the basics of the gameplay, well, check out Estival Versus, the video I did on that. Shameless plugging. Control-wise, it performs pretty well. Texture-wise, it's, it's a mobile port. It's a Vita port, although the Vita is pretty much the most powerful mobile device, aside from, some of the newer smartphones. It's the most powerful dedicated gaming handheld. So, like, hair quality is not too bad, but, like, some of the texture quality up close on, like, the clothing and on the models is a bit jaggy. This game really needs anti-aliasing in a big way, because I do feel like it affects the game significantly, especially when it's all about those close-ass shots. And, you know, I'm not, like, 15, I'm not, like, obsessing or ugly. I mean, I do it kind of ironically, but it is a little jarring to see that close-up. Like, from a distance, it doesn't look too bad, but then it gets really close up, and you're like, oh, it doesn't look too good. Which is a shame. Let's see if we can do it right here. Let's show it off. If you do have a PS4, I recommend getting Estival Versus over this. Although this one does have some cool tricks. I'm noticing that a lot of the maps from this one were recycled in Estival Versus. Models were significantly better than that game, though. They look like, some people, like, said they looked like they had a lot of, like, Vaseline all over their bodies, but I didn't think it looked, I thought it looked pretty good. It's supposed to be flashy and over the top. Combat, of course, is pretty good. You have aerial attacks, you have ways of dodging. It's a lot more flexible than Dynasty Wars. There's some guy, like, on Steam review page, commenting about how he didn't like it over Dynasty Wars and how, like, Dynasty Wars was way better in combat, and, you know, you're entitled to your own opinions, but he barely went into depth about it, and he's like, I mean, yeah, Dynasty Wars has more objective-focused gameplay, but the combat in this game is kind of hard to argue being inferior, because Dynasty Warriors is just, like, feels like a real button masher. If you crank up the difficulty in this game, it actually get kind of tough, in that you have to learn all the, like, fast dodging moves in order to not get hit by these attacks. In Dynasty Warriors, it's like, the controls in that game, when you crank up the difficulty, it can get kind of bullshit hard. Like, you can't move fast enough away from attacks because your character just can't dodge at all. And I get it's supposed to be like, you know, Chinese Dynasty Warriors, and that's supposed to be like anime fighters, but, I mean, they do blow the game up a bit to, like, have ridiculous attacks, so why not have cool dodge moves? Laziness, inconsistency, I don't know. All I know is that this is a pretty good game, and the port is acceptable. More so. It's more than playable, it's not locked, it's no problems I'm experiencing, other than some subpar graphics. You know, there's some bland textures, but some of it doesn't look too bad. And some of the loading times can get a little annoying if you're trying to skip through to see all the boobies. There's Best Girl. You can switch between the 3 campaigns. There's a lot of content. Let's see if I can beat her on the first try. When you do the Shinovi transformation, you restore all your health. So you don't want the enemy to do that, because it wastes a bunch of time. See that see the Pansu right there? Just, not too blurry. 0 out of 10. Can't wait to read the Polygon article on this. See if I can finish her off. Animations, of course, yeah, very flashy. It does lack some of the effects, again, from Estival Versus, even though I know this game was made well before that, but that was because it's mainly because it's on a handheld. I would like to see a sequel that's, you know, this game, PS4, PS Vita, whatever, but taking PC priority first. I mean, could you imagine people wanting to play this, like a character action game like this in 4K at, like, a higher frame rate? You know, when DisplayPort support. I don't even know if DisplayPort supports that yet, like 4K, 144 Hz. Who knows? But yeah, all I know, it's a pretty good game. You should pick it up if you like what you see. Alright guys, I'll see you next time. I'm out.